Hey everyone, and welcome to this deep dive. Today we're diving deep into the world of Reka AI.
Reka AI.
Yeah. Now you might be thinking another AI company. There are a lot of them out there these days, right?
Yeah, there are a lot. Reka AI is doing some really interesting things that set them apart, I think.
Well, that's what we're here to find out.
Yeah.
So one of the things that really caught my eye is that they're not just focused on text-based AI. Like, a lot of companies are really into chatbots and things like that.
Right.
But Reka AI is tackling images, videos, audio. They're going for the whole sensory experience.
Yeah, whole shebang.
That's what's called multimodal AI, and it's pretty cutting edge.
Yeah.
It's like they're trying to give computers the ability to understand the world more, like how we do with all our senses working together.
Yeah, it's like giving AI a full set of senses. It's a really ambitious goal.
It is ambitious.
Yeah.
So we've got some fantastic research lined up for you today, and hopefully by the end of this deep dive, you'll have a much better understanding of what Reka AI is all about, what they're doing, and why it matters.
Well, you know what else is interesting about them? Their founding team. I mean, we're talking about people who came from Google, DeepMind, Meta, Baidu. These are like the Avengers of AI research.
Right. Like seriously,
Yeah.
these are some heavy hitters in the AI world.
Yeah.
Why would they leave those kinds of positions to start their own company?
It makes you wonder, right? What did they see that made them think, okay, we need to do our own thing?
Exactly. So what was it? What were they seeing that others weren't?
Well, it seems like they had this idea, they had this hunch that maybe one giant AI model to do everything wasn't going to be the best approach.
Interesting. So instead of trying to build one AI to rule them all,
Right.
they were thinking more about AI that could be tailored for specific needs, right?
Yeah. And that's where their focus on multimodal AI really comes into play because different types of data require different types of processing, right?
Makes sense.
Hmm.
I mean, think about it. A model that's great at understanding text might not be so great at analyzing images.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So they saw a gap in the market, and they had the expertise to fill it. But, building a company takes more than just a great idea. It takes money.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Right.
It takes a lot of money. And you know what? They've managed to raise a lot of it.
How much are we talking?
We're talking, hold on, let me check my notes, a staggering $524.3 million so far. Just to put that into perspective, their valuation jumped from $300 million in June of 2023 to a whopping $1.25 billion just a year later.
Wow. So in just 1 year, their valuation more than quadrupled.
Yeah, it's pretty remarkable.
Investors are clearly betting big on Reka AI's vision.
They are. And speaking of big bets, did you hear about that whole thing with Snowflake?
Oh, yeah. Snowflake, the data cloud company. Aren't they going to acquire Reka AI?
Yeah, back in 2024, Snowflake was reportedly ready to shell out over $1 billion for Reka AI.
$1 billion. Wow. What made them think Reka AI was worth that kind of money? Well, you have to think about what Snowflake does. They're all about managing and analyzing data. And Reka AI's technology would have given them a way to analyze not just text data, but images, videos, audio, all within the same platform.
That would have been a game changer for companies dealing with massive amounts of data, especially companies that have to deal with all these different types of data.
Oh, yeah. It would have been huge.
So why didn't the deal go through?
Officially, no one really knows. There was a lot of speculation at the time.
Like what? What were people saying?
Well, some people thought that Snowflake might have gotten cold feet because their own growth was slowing down a bit.
So maybe $1 billion acquisition just seemed a little too risky at that point.
Yeah, that's one possibility.
What about from Reka AI's side? Why might they have walked away from $1 billion deal?
It's hard to say for sure, but maybe they just weren't ready to be acquired. They were still a very young company.
Right. They were just getting started.
Exactly. Maybe they felt like they had more to prove on their own before joining forces with a larger company.
It takes a lot of confidence to turn down an offer like that.
It does. So they had the team, they had the funding, and they even said no to $1 billion acquisition. What did they actually build with all of that?
That's the $1 million question.
Yeah.
What kind of AI models are we talking about here?
Well, they've got a whole suite of models, actually. They're designed for different purposes. There's their flagship model, which is called Reka Core. It's massive. It's got like 67 billion parameter.
Okay, so that's the big one, the one that can probably do it all.
Pretty much. Then you've got Reka Flash, which is optimized for speed and efficiency.
So if you need something fast, you go with Flash.
Right. And then there's Reka Edge, which is designed to run on devices like laptops and smartphones.
So no matter what your needs are, they've got a model that can handle it. They've created a whole ecosystem.
Yeah, they got all the bases covered.
But what's the secret sauce? What makes their models different from everything else out there?
Well, I think it all comes back to their focus on multimodal AI. They're not just throwing data at a standard algorithm. They've actually developed a new transformer architecture that's specifically designed to handle different types of data.
Hold on. Transformer architecture. Can you explain that in a way that even I can understand?
Sure, think of it like the blueprint for the AI model. This blueprint defines how the model is structured and how it processes information. Reka AI's architecture is built to handle different types of data all at the same time, kind of like how our brains can process information from our eyes, ears, and other senses all at once.
Ah, so they're building models that are more like us, able to understand the world in a more holistic way.
Exactly.
But a blueprint is just the starting point, right? What are some of the specific innovations they've come up with? What are they doing that other companies aren't?
Well, for example, they're using something called SWIGLU activation.
Okay, SWGLU activation. I'm going to need you to break that one down for me.
Sure. Um, Think of it like streamlining a production line. SWGLU helps the model prioritize information so it doesn't waste time processing stuff that's not important.
So it makes the model faster and more efficient.
Exactly.
Got it. So what else? What other tricks do they have up their sleeve?
They're also using something called rotary positional encoding,
Yeah.
which helps the model understand the order of words in a sentence. You know, like how the cat sat on the mat is different from the mat sat on the cat?
Yeah, the order definitely matters.
Right. And then there's grouped query attention, which helps the model focus on the most important parts of the information it's processing.
So it's all about making the model smarter and more focused.
Pretty much.
But all of this requires a ton of data, right? I mean, where do they get all the information they need to train these AI behemoths?
That's where their partnership with Shutterstock comes in.
Shutterstock, the stock photo company.
Yep, that's the one. Shutterstock has this massive library of images, videos, and all this metadata, which is exactly what Reka AI needs to train their multimodal models.
Ah, so it's like a win-win for both companies.
Exactly. Reka AI gets access to this huge amount of data, and Shutterstock gets to enhance their platform with Reka AI's technology.
Smart. But how do they actually make money from all of this? What's their business model?
Their main focus is providing enterprise-grade AI solutions.
So they're targeting large companies, research institutions, anyone who needs serious AI firepower.
Exactly.
Okay, but how do they actually charge for that?
They have a few different options. There's API access, where companies can basically plug into Reka AI's models and use them for their own purposes.
Makes sense.
Then there's on-premises deployment, where they actually install the models directly on the client servers.
Yeah, so the client has more control over the data and the models in that case.
Right. And of course, they offer custom model training for clients who have very specific needs.
So they've got all their bases covered. It sounds like they're in a really good position.
They seem to be doing well.
But they're not the only players in this game, right? Who are they up against in this AI arena?
Well, you've got the giants like OpenAI, the company behind GPT-4.
Yeah, GPT-4, that's a big one.
It is. And then there's Google DeepMind, which is developing some impressive multimodal capabilities of its own.
So Reka AI is going up against some seriously tough competition.
They are. It's a very competitive landscape.
Okay, so before we go any further, I think it's worth pausing for a second and really highlighting what makes Reka AI stand out in this crowd.
Good point.
They're not just another company churning out the same old text-based models. They're pushing the boundaries with this focus on multimodal AI.
Right. They're trying to build AI that can see, hear, and understand the world more like how we do.
And they're doing it with a team of incredibly talented people who come from some of the top AI labs in the world.
Yeah, their pedigree is pretty impressive.
Plus, they raise hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're partnering with major companies like Shutterstock.
They're definitely a company to watch.
Okay, so now I'm even more curious to hear about the competition and how Reka AI stacks up against these giants. But you mentioned pausing. We don't need to pause. I want to hear more. What are these competitors all about?
All right, all right. Let's start with OpenAI. They've made a big splash with their GPT models, which are incredibly powerful, but, well, they're expensive to use, especially for large-scale applications.
Ah, so cost is a factor, especially for companies that are trying to implement AI but maybe don't have a huge budget.
Right, and their models are primarily focused on language, whereas Reka AI, as we've discussed, has taken this multimodal approach from the start.
Right, so they're coming at it from different angles.
They are, and that could give Reka AI an advantage when it comes to tasks that require understanding the world in a more holistic way, like we do.
Yeah, makes sense. So Reka AI's multimodal approach could be a real differentiator in certain areas.
Hmm.
What about Google DeepMind? They've been doing a lot of work in AI as well.
Oh, yeah. Google DeepMind is another powerhouse in the AI world. I mean, they've got a ton of resources and some of the most brilliant researchers on the planet.
Yeah, they're definitely a force to be reckoned with.
They are. They've developed models like Gemini that are showing some very strong multimodal capabilities.
So it sounds like Reka AI has its work cut out for it going up against these giants.
Hmm.
Are there any other competitors we should be aware of?
There are a few others worth mentioning. Anthropic is one. They're focused on building AI that's safe, transparent, and aligned with human values.
So they're really emphasizing the ethical aspects of AI.
They are. They're known for their Claude models.
Okay. And who else?
You've also got companies like Mistral AI Cohere and AI 21 Labs.
Yeah.
They're all making their mark on the enterprise AI landscape.
So it's a crowded field with a lot of different players all vying for their piece of the AI pie.
Hmm.
What do you think Reka AI's biggest strengths are in this kind of environment?
Well, we've already talked about their focus on multimodal AI, and that's definitely a major differentiator.
Right. It sets them apart from a lot of the competition.
It does. And they're also moving very quickly and decisively. Remember how their valuation jumped so much in just 1 year?
Yeah, that was pretty impressive.
That shows that investors have a lot of confidence in their ability to execute their vision.
They're not afraid to take risks and make bold moves.
Nope, they're not. And let's not forget about their partnership with Shutterstock.
Right. That gives them access to a huge amount of data.
Exactly. And having access to that kind of data is crucial for training these large multimodal models.
So it sounds like Reka AI has a lot going for it. But, every company faces challenges, especially in a field as fast-moving as AI. What are some of the hurdles they might encounter?
I think one of the biggest challenges for any AI company is simply keeping up with the pace of innovation. I mean, the field is constantly evolving. What's cutting edge today could be outdated tomorrow.
So they can't just rest on their laurels. They need to keep pushing forward.
Exactly. They need to stay ahead of the curve and keep innovating, or they risk falling behind.
What else? What other challenges do they face?
Another big challenge is managing the ethical implications of their technology.
Right. Because AI has the potential to be incredibly powerful.
It does. And with that power comes a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. So what are some of the specific ethical considerations they need to be thinking about?
Well, for one thing, they need to make sure that their models aren't biased. AI models are trained on massive data sets. And if those data sets contain biases, then those biases can be reflected in the model's output.
So they need to be very careful about the data they use to train their models.
They do. They need to make sure it's representative of the real world and then it doesn't perpetuate harmful stereotypes.
Makes sense. What else?
They also need to think about how their technology might be misused.
Oh, yeah. Like for malicious purposes.
Exactly. For example, multimodal AI could be used to create deepfakes. Videos that are so realistic, they're virtually indistinguishable from real footage.
Those are pretty scary. I mean, deepfakes could be used to spread misinformation or even manipulate people.
Exactly. So, Reka AI needs to be aware of these potential risks and take steps to mitigate them.
So it's not enough to just build great AI.
Yeah.
You also have to think about the potential consequences of that technology.
Right. It's about building AI that's beneficial to society and doesn't cause harm.
Okay, so we've talked about the competition, the challenges, but now I want to get into the human side of things. Who are the people behind Reka AI? What's their story?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the founders come from some of the most prestigious AI labs in the world. They've got backgrounds in computer science, mathematics, neuroscience, you name it.
Wow. So it's a really diverse group.
It is. And they all have this shared passion for building AI that can understand and interact with the world in a more human-like way.
So what brought these individuals together to form Reka AI? What was their shared vision?
It seems like they all had this realization that the future of AI wasn't going to be about one-size-fits-all solutions.
Interesting.
They saw the need for more specialized, tailored AI that could be adapted to different needs and contexts.
So they weren't just building technology, they were building a company with a purpose.
Yeah, a mission to change the way we think about and interact with AI.
That's inspiring. But building a company is hard work, especially in a field as demanding as AI. What's it like to work at Reka AI? What kind of culture has they created?
Well, from what I've heard, they've cultivated a culture that's very collaborative and fast-paced.
So it's a high-energy environment where everyone's pushing each other to be their best.
Yeah, it sounds like a place where you'd never get bored.
Definitely not. So they're attracting some of the best and brightest minds in AI.
They are people who are drawn to their mission and excited to be working on these cutting-edge problems.
So they're not just building great AI, they're building a great company. That's pretty impressive. But I'm curious about the bigger picture. Where do they fit into the broader AI landscape? What impact are they having on the world?
Well, it's still early days, but they're already making waves in a number of different industries.
Like which ones? Give me some examples.
Sure, well, let's start with healthcare. Imagine a world where AI can analyze medical images, identify potential problems, and even assist with diagnoses.
That would be revolutionary.
It would. And Reka AI's multimodal models could be used to develop those kinds of diagnostic tools.
Wow. So they're potentially saving lives with their technology.
Potentially. And that's just one example. What about finance?
Finance.
Yeah.
How could their technology be used in that sector?
Well, their models could be used to analyze financial data, identify patterns, and make predictions about market trends.
So they could help investors make better decisions.
Potentially. They could also be used to detect fraud and improve risk management.
So they're bringing the power of AI to some of the most complex and challenging problems we face. What about entertainment? How could their technology be used in a field like that?
Think about video games. For example, Reka AI's models could be used to create more realistic and immersive gaming experiences with characters that can understand and respond to players in a more natural way.
That could be amazing.
It would be like blurring the lines between the virtual world and the real world.
It sounds like the possibilities are almost endless. But with all this powerful technology, there must be some concerns about the potential negative impact on society, right?
Of course, we always need to be thoughtful about how we develop and deploy AI. We need to make sure that it benefits humanity as a whole.
So it's not just about building the most advanced AI possible.
No, it's not. It's about building AI that serves a greater purpose, that makes the world a better place.
Right. We need to consider the ethical implications, the potential for misuse, and the long-term consequences of the technology we create.
Absolutely. We need to be responsible stewards of this powerful technology.
It's encouraging to know that companies like Reka AI are taking these concerns seriously.
It is. They seem to be very aware of the potential downsides of AI and are working to mitigate those risks.
Okay, so what's next for Reka AI? Where do they go from here?
That's the big question, isn't it? They've already accomplished so much in such a short time, but they're still a relatively young company with a lot of potential.
It feels like we're just at the beginning of their story.
I think we are. And it's going to be really interesting to see how that story unfolds.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground here. We've talked about Reka AI's technology, their team, the competition, the challenges they face, and the potential impact of their work. But I think it's important to step back for a moment and think about the big picture. What does Reka AI's story tell us about the state of AI as a whole?
That's a great question. I think Reka AI's success so far suggests that we're entering a new era of AI, one where multimodal capabilities will be increasingly important.
So they're not just a company. They're a sign of things to come.
Right. They're at the forefront of this new wave of AI, and their work is likely to inspire many others to follow in their footsteps.
It really is an exciting time to be following the developments in AI. But before we wrap up this deep dive, I have one final question for you. What's the one thing you want our listeners to take away from all of this? What's the most important insight you can share?
I think the key takeaway here is that Reka AI is definitely a company to watch. They're doing some really groundbreaking work in multimodal AI, and their technology has the potential to change the world in profound ways.
So pay attention, folks. This is a company that could be shaping the future of AI.
Absolutely. And it's going to be a wild ride.
It does feel like we're on the verge of something big with AI. You know, all the things we've talked about, AI analyzing medical images, understanding financial markets, even making video games more immersive, it's really mind-blowing.
It is. It's incredible to think about how far AI has come in such a short time.
And Reka AI seems to be right at the forefront of this revolution. But where do they go from here? What's their end game?
That's a tough question to answer. It's hard to predict the future, but I think there are a few possibilities. One path they could take is to become the leader in multimodal AI, kind of like the Google of this new wave of technology.
So they could set the standard for the entire industry.
Exactly. They could attract the top talent, become the go-to solution for anyone who wants to use multimodal AI.
That would be quite an accomplishment. What do you think it would take for them to get there?
Well, they would need to keep innovating at a rapid pace. Stay ahead of the curve in terms of both the technology and the applications.
So they can't afford to slow down.
No. They need to keep pushing the boundaries, and they also need to navigate the competitive landscape very carefully, because there are a lot of other companies out there who are also trying to make their mark in this space.
Right, it's a crowded field.
Yeah.
So what if they don't become the next Google? What are some other scenarios you could imagine?
Another possibility is that they find a specific niche where their multimodal approach gives them a really strong advantage.
Ah, so instead of trying to be everything to everyone, they can focus on becoming the best at one particular thing.
Exactly. Maybe they become the leading provider of AI-powered diagnostic tools for healthcare. Or maybe they revolutionize the way we interact with robots.
Interesting. So they could become the specialists, the masters of a particular domain.
Right. And that could be a very successful strategy, especially in a market as dynamic and fast-moving as AI.
It's fascinating to consider all the different paths they could take. But no matter which path they choose, their success ultimately depends on their ability to execute their vision.
Oh, absolutely. They need to be able to turn their ideas into real-world products and services that actually solve problems and create value for their customers.
And they need to do it in a way that's responsible and ethical.
Right. We can't forget about the ethical implications of AI. It's
Wow.
a powerful technology, and we need to make sure it's used for good.
It's a lot to think about, but it's an incredibly exciting time to be involved in the world of AI. And companies like Reka AI are leading the way.
They are, and it's going to be fascinating to see what the future holds for them.
Okay, well, that's about all the time we have for today's deep dive. I hope you found this exploration of Reka AI as fascinating as we did.
It's been a real pleasure discussing this with you.
And to all of you listening out there, thank you for joining us on this journey into the world of multimodal AI. Keep exploring, keep learning, and most importantly, keep asking questions.
The future of AI is full of possibilities, and it's up to all of us to shape that future in a way that benefits humanity.
Well said. That's a great note to end on. Thanks again for listening, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.